I have clicked on the record button, okay, and I'm going. Okay, so hopefully, this helps. Okay, right. So just briefly, the key concept checklist from the previous session. We discussed the macro environmental forces. All right, and that includes the political, economic, social, cultural, and also technological. Okay. Um, I just want to highlight to you that when it comes to analyzing these forces, make sure you focus on the impact to business. Okay, what the specific forces, what the specific factors are, and what the impacts to business are. Okay, in doing so, please research the data, facts, or references. You can insert references. Okay. Now, these guys here, these pest forces, would be one of the would be your would contribute to the evaluation to the markets. Okay, evaluation on the markets that you're going to select. Okay, and tonight we are going to discuss these the micro environmental forces. Okay, or the micro environmental actors. Okay, there are 6 of them as well. Okay, we have the company, your organization, the suppliers, the marketing intermediaries, okay, or the distributors, the resellers, the competitors, publics, and also customers. Okay, so let's have a look at them. The company actually the analysis of the company helps us to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the organization, because our focus when it comes to analyzing the company is actually trying to understand the organization, the process, okay, and also people. Okay, and we are going to have a look at the strengths and weaknesses of the organization in the session tomorrow. Okay, so that's the company. So the focus of the company's analysis basically is about the strengths and weaknesses, the capabilities of the company. Okay, and we look at the organization, we look at the we look at the process and also people in the organization. Okay, they are the basis of analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of the company. Okay, and then suppliers. Now, suppliers here are interesting because the suppliers may not be in the home market. The suppliers may not be in the host market either, or they may be both in the home market, overseas, and the host market. Okay, so that goes back to your own analysis in terms of whether you can find the suppliers for your activities, right? Well, it may not be that it may not be a determinant factor in terms of the success of your operations in overseas, because you can source the products, source the materials from anywhere in the world. You manufacture that in the host market, okay, which is fine. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, so if that's the case, then you can explain that well, suppliers in here are neutral. Okay, and the next one is the marketing intermediaries. Okay, or the resellers of your products or services. Now, some companies adopt the resellers in their business model. Okay, so they may hire distributors or any other resellers, such as retailers, for instance, to help them distributing the products, okay, promoting the products, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you need to look at your own business model. By the way, if in your business model you actually have need the distributors or retailers, then you need to assess the marketing intermediaries. Okay, and in different business models, you may not need to involve the marketing intermediaries or the resellers. Okay, If that's the case, then you can ignore that factor. Okay, you can ignore it. Well, it doesn't affect us because we are doing, we supply these products for these industries, for instance. So we manage the distribution ourselves, for instance. Okay, that is fine. Okay. Now, competitors are interesting. Okay. At the end of the day, we want to ensure that our business offers superior value for the customers. Okay, so we live in a very competitive world out there. Okay, so think about this. I received these questions a few times. My product does not have competitors. Therefore, I'm the only one, so I cannot provide you with the competitors analysis. Okay, well, you need to rethink that. Okay, because very likely in our business landscape, in today's business landscape, we live in a very competitive world unless you are the monopoly holder in that industry. Okay, in fact, if you look at in the broader sense, okay, you may compete with the players from outside the industry. Okay, think about this. In Sydney, for instance, we have Sydney Railway. You can argue that they are the monopoly holder in train business. Okay, so yes, they don't have competitors in railway business. Okay, the same thing as the Sydney Water. Okay, they supply water to Sydneysiders, here. Okay, so yeah, you can argue that they are the monopoly holder, so they don't have the competitors, but they have competitors from different industry, the product substitute. Okay, so in the case of the train, for instance, in Sydney, you have customers have different options, all right, to move from A to B. Customers can drive, customers can ride a bike, for instance, customers can catch a bus, and so on and so forth. Okay, so think about it in the broader sense, right? In other words, when you analyze your competitors, okay, and you may get stuck, okay, I don't have competitors here, okay, think about this. What is the need of the customers, okay, and how would your customers fulfill that need, okay? If your product is not available, okay, what products would the customers purchase to fulfill their needs? Okay, they are your sources of business. They are your competitors. Okay, so think about that. Okay, so therefore, guys, can I please remind you again that please, when you get stuck, when you don't know, okay, I don't think I have competitors because my product is so unique, I'm the only one. Yeah, okay, accept that. You are the only one in your product category, actually. That's what you are saying. Okay, so you are explaining the competition from your perspective, not from the customer's perspective, not from the customer's purchase behavior perspective. Okay, so yes, that's the thing that I'd like to highlight to you. Okay, now the next thing that we need to discuss is if you look at that, you can also actually map your competitors based on whether how closely they are to you, to your business. Okay, so you can group them into direct competitors, indirect competitors, and product substitutes. Okay, so when you analyze this, you need to ask yourself what need that your products satisfy. Okay, so and then you ask yourself how close they are in terms of satisfying the needs of the customers. All right, now well, that is actually in line with what we mean by competitors. Okay, competitors are basically the organizations that satisfy similar needs of the customers. All right, in other words, they deploy similar strategies to us. Okay, strong similarities to us in terms of deploying strategies. Okay, so what do we mean by strategies? Well, they include the concept target market. Okay, and also the offering, the value that they offer. Okay, so that's what we mean by competitors. Okay, so you can have a look at this, right? You may, assuming that you are the only one in your product category. Okay, so you are on your own in terms of the competitors, but you may need to think about the indirect competitors and also the product substitute, because they may be your threats in the competition. Okay. All right. So we understand that understanding the competitors are important for us. Okay, because it is one of the strategic decisions that we need to decide. Remember, understand the competition helps us defining our strategies. Okay. In fact, redefining the competition helps us to look into our own business portfolio to generate innovative ideas. All right. For instance, in America, Home Depot, for instance, look into the insights about the customer's needs. Okay, they do not look into the industries per se. Okay, they look into the customer's needs. Okay, when it comes to repairing home, okay, or home improvement. Okay, and they found that the consumers actually talk about two things. Okay. Well, I have the option of if I have problem at home, I need to repair it. I need to repair something. I need to repair home, either fixing the the roof that is leaking, or fixing the tap water, for instance. Okay, or anything that I need to fix at home. I have the option of calling the contractor, hiring them, or I have the option of going to any hardware store. Buy something and try to fix it. Okay. If Home Depot only thinks about a hardware store industry, hardware store category, they will only think about the guys who come to the store buying the materials. Right. Think about Home Depot like Banning Warehouse. Okay. So that is actually limiting their scope of competition. Right, so they redefine the competition. Right, they look at the other reason why the other thing that consumers may do is to talk or to invite the contractors. Right, now both options have issues. Okay, ask ourselves. Right, if we call contractors, hire contractors to fix things at home, the issues would be cost. Agree? Getting them, calling them, making an appointment with them. Well, you may need to work from home if you can, all right? Or you may need to, come to the office a bit late because you need to invite this person to come to your place to fix things at home, okay? And of course, the cost is quite expensive as well, okay? The second option that the customers can do is actually going to Home Depot or going to warehouse, the hardware store, okay, like Bunnings or whatever it is, okay, in America, and buy things. Right now, these options has also issues. Okay, well, customers, may not be trained to fix things. Agree? All right, customers may have problems with that. We not all of us are trained, or not all of us have the skills and knowledge to fix things at home, right? So what Home Depot considers actually to include both benefits, both values, right, in the competition, okay, to offer as one DIY store, okay? So they hired tradies to be their salesperson in the selling area. Okay, they hire these tradies, okay, and then these tradies will basically, help the customers, giving consultation when customers have problem, and they also organize workshops or kind of education for people to improve the DIY skills, do-it-yourself skills. Okay, now because of that, okay, they don't need, a fancy store like in the shopping mall, whatever. Okay, they need the warehouse format type of store. Okay, now because of that, they can purchase the materials from their suppliers in the bulk volume. As a result, they can reduce the costs of running the business. Okay, so that they can provide with the cheaper cost for the cheaper price for the customers. Okay, because it is a warehouse format anyway. Okay, now. that helps the customers, right? Building the customers' confidence, building the customers, helping the customers with the skills and knowledge in terms of fixing things at home or in terms of DIY. Okay, so they redefine it. Okay, they redefine it. Right? They redefine the competition. My competition is not only about these guys, but I'm going to include these as a map. Okay, the contractors and also the DIY. Okay, I'm going to include those two guys, and then I'm trying to offer something as an added value for the customers. Okay. The same thing as the Swatch. I believe you may have heard that watch brand before. Okay, if you look at watch industry, for instance, you may come up with ideas like you may come up with strong brands in terms of volume, volume share. You can refer to Seiko and Citizens. Okay, so these guys are basically Japanese brands that focus more on the functional benefits for the customers, right? And Swatch came in with a different way to look at that. Okay, well, yeah, do I have to follow the functional benefits for the customers? Not really. I may also be able to develop an emotional appeal. Okay, so they came up with the idea of a fashion statement. Okay, because some consumers may want to change their watch that suits their own attire at that moment. Okay, so kind of fashion statement that has become a fashion statement. Okay, right. So that's my recommendation. That's the reason why I recommend you to look into the competition in the broader sense. Start by understanding the customers' needs. What do customers need in this industry? Okay, what would they buy actually? What would they really buy from your product, basically? Okay, and how would consumers fulfill their needs? Okay, what are the products? What are the other products that consumers may buy to fulfill their needs? Right. With that, you actually put them into the map to look at the boundaries in your competition. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea, guys. Now, I would also recommend you to review the competitors' offering. Okay, here I would recommend you to look into the marketing mix variables of the competitors. Okay, the product, the price, the placements, and the promotions. Okay, what products they offer? They may offer a range of products. That's fine. Okay, so you list down briefly about the major one, and you can also mark the flagship of the products. Okay, and then the price range. Okay, if it is chocolate bar, for instance, the price of 25 grams is ranging from this to that. For instance, the 50-gram packs would be ranging from here to there, for instance, right? And how would they distribute the product? Okay, what outlets? Okay, and how would they promote the product? Okay, so that's basically the competitors analysis. Yeah, right. Guys, the other thing about the competitors that I'd like to recommend you to consider is the analysis of the competitors. Okay, here I recommend you to look into the key success factors in the industry. Okay, you list down what it takes to be successful in this industry. Okay, you name it. It could be the distribution channel. It could be the strong customer service. All right, it could be the brand equity or brand awareness, for instance. It could also be strong product quality, for instance, strong product manufacturing facility, for instance, to be successful in that industry. Okay, you name it. Okay, you list down. The list may go very long. Okay, but you can pick up the major ones. All right, and from there, you map each major competitors that you have. Okay, let's say if you analyze 3 competitors, you map them. Okay. You map them based on high, moderate, or low. Okay, so at least you should have 1 high and 1 low for each of the competitor. Okay, that high mark actually reflects their strengths. Okay, let's say competitor 1 quite high in terms of brand awareness, but quite low in terms of channel relationship, for instance. Okay, so that reflects the competitor 1 has strong brand awareness, but they have poor or they have weakness in terms of channel relationship. Okay, so that's basically the competitor analysis. Okay, any questions, guys? Any questions so far? All good? Brilliant. Yep.
Okay. These are the competitors in the new market.
Yep, exactly. That's one. In the host market, in the new market, yes.
Okay.
That you want to compete. Okay.
Okay.
Now, remember, that is actually a good question, Davis. Thanks a lot. I'm glad that you asked that question. That landscape, that competitive landscape, may be different to your home market. Okay, makes sense or not? The competitors in your home market in Australia may be different to the competitors in the overseas market. Okay, you may face more local competitors in the host market, in the overseas market.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have. If that's the case, then you can argue that they have the local knowledge. Agree?
Yes.
As a newcomer, you still need to build that. You still need to build that local expertise, the insights from the local customers, both
Yes.
consumers and also your resellers. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that is their advantage, right? Which is our disadvantage in this instance. Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant. Any other questions? No. All good. Okay, brilliant. Okay, let's move on to the next one. The next one here is actually about the 4 or 5 forces analysis. Look, 4 or 5 forces analysis is quite popular to understand the market attractiveness. Okay, Porter is one of the professor of business strategy at Harvard Business School, and this is actually taken from the article that he published in the first instance. Okay, the 5 forces that shape the competitiveness in the industry. Okay, his theory actually revolves around there are 5 forces that affect the profitability of the industry. Okay, therefore we need to adjust our strategy accordingly. Okay, now we can use it. We can use this model to assess the attractiveness of the industry. Okay. So what he suggests is actually if the competitive or rivalry within the industry is quite high, okay, that means it is unfavorable for us, because if the rivalry is quite high, that means the consumers have options. Therefore, as a result, our price point will be under pressure. As a result, ultimately, it will lead us to less profitability. Okay. Hang on a second. Sorry, guys. Okay, have a bit of technical issue. So that's one of the forces. Okay. Now, how can we determine that that the rivalry is quite high in that industry? Number of things that we can look at. Number of symptoms that we can look at. The main symptoms include the number of competitors in that market. Okay, whether if we have lots of competitors in that market, then yes, the market is quite competitive. Okay, we can also look at the aggressiveness of the competition. Okay, if we may have limited number of competitors. Okay, like in Australian supermarket industry, but they are all aggressive. Okay, one supermarket brand in Australia drops the price, the other brands will follow. Okay, that actually relates to the market structure of the industry. Okay, whether it's you have the monopolistic competition or oligopolistic competition or the perfect competition. Okay, so that leads to that point. Okay, yes, that's rivalry. Okay, the next one that we also need to look at is the buyer power. The buyer power in here actually revolves around whether the customers have stronger power than us or not. Okay, and again, there are symptoms that we can look at. For instance, we can review whether the customers have options or not. If the customers have options, yes, their power is higher. Okay, now there are we also need to look at one thing. Okay, the customers may have options. However, if our products are unique, okay, the products in the market, the products in the competitive market are quite unique. So relatively speaking, our power is not that bad, okay, because the competitors, the customers will depend on our products, okay. So we have kind of protective market in there, all right. Think about Apple's products, for instance, okay. They develop their own system, okay, the iOS system, okay, and that iOS system talks nicely to the other iOS system, agree? If you have a gadget that has Android system, then you may have a bit of headache in terms of transferring files, right? So therefore, customers may depend on it. Okay, the customers may depend on it. All right, so their bargaining power in here is not bad actually. Okay, although customers have options, well, I don't have to buy your product. I can buy their products, but you know, if they have one gadget using iOS, they have the tendency of having the second gadgets with iOS system. Yeah. The next one is actually the bargaining power of the suppliers. Okay, the bargaining power of the suppliers is actually the flip side of the coin if you compare to the bargaining power of the buyers. Okay, so here, if we have options, okay, if we have more suppliers, then we are in a better bargaining position. Okay, so it is not about the size of the company. Okay, but on the other side, if there is only one supplier that can supply uniquely to that has a unique product that fits best to our system, for instance, to our product, then we depend on these guys. Okay, although we have a number of suppliers, but if our product works best with their material, then yes, we depend on these guys. Make sense, guys? So you need to look into the organization, looking at the organization's bargaining position against the suppliers. Okay. The next one is the threats of new entrants. Okay, which is reflected by the barriers to entry. Okay, so the barriers to entry in here reflects how hard it is to compete in that industry. All right, how hard it is for newcomers to compete in that industry. All right, now we expect that to be quite high, because if it is quite high, that's good, because that will keep the competitors away, keep the new competitors away from this industry. You will be the newcomer in that industry, so you need to look at that as well. Okay. The next one is threat of substitute products. All right, now we expect that if the threat of substitute product is quite high, that means the chance for customers to buy products from beyond our industry is quite high. Okay, remember the one I just discussed in terms of the competitiveness of the industry. Okay, you need to look at cross section. Okay, you need to look at the boundary of the customers. What are the products that the customers buy to fulfill their need? It may be your substitute products. Okay, so if you compete in biscuit industry, for instance, for argument's sake, you need to look at the entire macro snack category. For instance, you need to look at the chips, you need to look at the biscuits, you need to look at lollies, sweet snacks, and so on and so forth. Put them into one large macro, let's say, snack category, to look at how they interact one to another. So that will give you the insights in terms of the boundaries of the competition. Okay. Right, guys, that's basically 4 or 5 forces, and here is actually, you can see in here some symptoms that you can refer to when it comes to understanding 4 or 5 forces, right? There was I just discussed before. I'm not going to discuss this bit further, and you can also use this kind of template to analyze that, okay? Rivalry in market 1 and rivalry in market 2, for instance, buyer power, and so on and so forth in market 1, market 2, and that's your assessment. Okay, and after that, you can also discuss the overall attractiveness. Yeah. Any questions, guys? All good? Okay. So tonight's topic is basically about the micro-environmental forces and 4 or 5 forces. Okay. Again, would you like to discuss the assessment after this, or have you got questions for me about the assessments?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay. How about you, Quang? Hello, Quang?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay. Davis, how about you, mate?
No.
No? Okay. Look, can I suggest tomorrow we are going to discuss the other ones, which is basically about the risk and SWOT analysis and risk. And after that, we are going to look at the evaluation metrics. Okay. I would suggest that you have made a decision about your the company and the market. Okay. Nominates the market. Okay. Don't complicate it. Nominate the markets. Select the company. Okay, nominate the markets and start working on the analysis, because you need to have the you need to start doing the research. Okay, therefore next week my intention is to focus more on the assessments. Okay, rather than the the content. Okay, so let's think about it. Okay, and I'm going to allocate some time out of these 30-40 minutes to discuss about the assessment with you guys. Yeah. Any questions?
No, thanks.
All good? Brilliant. If you don't have any questions, I'll see you next week. Now,